Hello. So the first thing I have to do is apologize to Andreas for interrupting the schedule. I asked him to put me in today instead of tomorrow, but I have a good reason. Everybody so far has been brilliant, and some are entertaining you, some are educating you. I'm here to give you homework. And the homework I want to make sure I have this evening and tomorrow to meet some of you and make sure you're doing it. For those of you from other countries, the homework is going to be to help us spread our message around the world and bring those people back here in August. For those of you that are from Mexico, the homework is going to be to help me make sure that we create a great event, and I'll explain a little of that now. I started an organization 25 years ago called FIRST, for Inspiration and Recognition of Science and Technology. My day job, I take on big problems, typically medical, and I try to solve them by looking at them differently. 25 years ago in America, everybody was worried about the education crisis. So many kids, particularly girls and minorities, would never think about careers in science and technology and engineering. The country can't exist if all the kids want to grow up to be athletes and entertainers. So I said, let's not assume it's an education problem. Let's assume we have a culture problem. In a free culture, like Mexico, you get the best of what you celebrate. If you don't celebrate engineering and technology the way you celebrate sports, you're not going to create people with passion to do it in an extraordinary way. So I formed a not-for-profit for inspiration and recognition of science and technology. First, it's like a sport. Kids never run around cheering, I want to be second, but they don't want to take math or physics. I formed this and said, well, but in all sports, there's superstars, there's role models. I'll be nothing but a science fair unless I can start this new vision of a cultural agent, not an education program. I need superstars and role models from the world of tech. Big companies, universities, and I went out 25 years ago and collected a bunch of companies and said, lend me some of your young superstars to be role models for kids, and we're going to create after-school activities that will inspire kids. That's the I, inspire to recognize science and technology. I thought it was a bold move just to think we're going to change the culture in America to create more scientists and engineers and innovators and competitive people. It turns out, as you'll see, about 10 years later, my vision was too small. So, knowing that I have a very short time, I'm going to show you a video that we made about after we had already been around 10 years. And a guy from media, the voice of God, Morgan Freeman, came to one of our events and said, Dean, I'll help you. I'll make a video that explains what FIRST is. Knowing that we'd run out of time, believe it or not, I took 3 of the 4 minutes of Morgan Freeman and cut it out, but to show you a little bit of what FIRST is, here it is.
This is the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl of smarts, that is. It's a life-changing competition. It's kids having fun, competing, working together to dream up, design, and build robots.
It's just an exhilarating feeling. It's like I'm using power tools.
They're having the hardest fun they've ever had. And they're becoming our next generation of engineers and innovators. First, for inspiration and recognition of science and technology. My teachers were some of the greatest influences on my life by challenging and trusting me. These mentors got me to understand that I could do anything I put my mind to.
I feel like I can go and do anything I want to do because of this program.
Someone took the time to guide and inspire me. It changed my life. Take some time. Go to usfirst.org.
Now, the first thing you should remember about that video is he said, go to usfirst.org, because 10 years ago, 15, that's what we were. Now, what I'm here to tell you is things have changed, and I have to make it, this clock is making me very nervous, a very brief history. We were organized in the US But it was such a powerful idea to take kids and parents and teachers and companies and put them together. All the big companies in the US started spreading it around the world. But we realized recently, and that's where all of you come in, we've got to take that organic worldwide growth and make it organized into turning not just US First, but now a new organization called First Global needs to become a reality. How do you do that? I'm going to show you. With a very brief history of First. 25 years ago, I said to the president, look, you bring the winners of the Super Bowl and the World Series and the Academy Awards to the White House. Bring the winners of our programs to the White House. Treat them like any other superstars in sports. And 4 presidents, 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, Bush 41, Clinton, Bush 43, Obama have done that. Let's leave it alone. So this is 25 years ago in the first year of First. Everybody that knew what First was in a high school gym. Then we outgrow the gym, and we go to Disney, who was hosting us for 7 years as we doubled and redoubled from 23 teams in year 1 to hundreds and hundreds of teams. Then we outgrow them. By 2002, we have thousands of teams and regional events in March Madness. Every major city in the US was having regional events. Then we had to move to a 70,000-seat arena. Then the 3rd president comes in, and yes, he invites the kids to the White House, and the robots are bigger by then. And then we have yet another, by the way, to this day now almost 40% of the kids on our teams are women and minorities. Yes, a new president came in, and for 8 years he'd bring the kids to the White House. To jump really far ahead, last year we had 55,000 teams. 55,000 teams. We had 200 universities. We had 200 universities. Now, in order to let a university put their name on a robot in any one of the 140 cities that holds regionals, we tell them you got to give us a full scholarship. So last year at the championship in Houston, we handed out $50 million in scholarships. Over the years, though, as I said, organically, we started growing. A couple of years ago, a team from South Korea won the little competition with the first Lego League. A team from Africa came over. It was inspiring to see what they did. But here's a quick map of what we looked like even before we officially decided we need First Global. And this map will show you that First organically had grown to 83 countries sending teams. But there was no structure to it. They're just all invited. Well, I get to meet some really interesting people in my life. CEOs, presidents of countries, people from Hollywood. Well, I met a fascinating guy about 15 years ago named Shimon Peres. And Shimon Peres calls me up. He said, Dean, it's not good enough that I'm sending teams from Israel to your regionals in the US. It's not good enough for us to just be sort of involved. I want a regional here in Tel Aviv. I want to organize the Middle East. And he told me the most powerful story I think I've ever heard from a president of a country. He said, Dean, at the time he was a young man of 80 years old, he said, I've watched 4 generations of kids grow up in the world, and I used to think the most important thing to do is teach them history. Because kids from all the different countries in this neighborhood are going to realize that war is futile. Everybody loses war. Everything is destroyed in war. And I realized if we could just teach history, they'd learn from their parents and grandparents how to stop this self-inflicted wounds generation after generation. Instead, he says to me, I've been with First now for years, and I've seen that we should stop teaching history, because in history, each group teaches their kids their own history. They teach them how to repeat the craziness of 2,000 years. He said, if we teach kids only technology, first of all, they'll all learn the same thing, because mathematics and physics and engineering is the same in every language. Secondly, they'll all learn how to build their own garden. They won't need to fight over each other's or ours. You're going to come to Israel and help me build regionals here so we can involve the whole Middle East, and we will turn First into a tool of international diplomacy. I went over there, and these are letters. This is from a letter that he sent to me. But here's a man who was at 93 last year, had passed away, but before he did, he agreed to be the honorary chair of First Global. And what he literally said to me was, Dean, politics divides the world, technology can unite it. So I have to show they started doing regionals. They got bigger and bigger with their regionals. China got bigger and bigger with their regionals. But just so you people here know, here's Mexico. By 2004, you had some teams coming. Yes, oh, it gets way better. In 2004, Mexico had teams going to regionals. By the next year, after I meet a person like Shimon Peres, we got to step it up. Well, Mexico started having more and more teams, and a few years later, I got to meet another visionary guy with a lot of resources. His name is Ricardo Salinas, and I'm telling him about how important FIRST could be. And I said, you've got a lot of teams too, like Israel, but Israel now has their own regionals. Mexico needs its own regionals. So Ricardo says, okay. And in his stadium in Mexico City, you started having regionals a few years ago. Let me tell you what's going on now in Mexico. Mexico has, as you can see, this is last year's news. We now have over 1,000 teams at every level here. Mexico has become a major, major partner of FIRST. But as you will soon see, I'm never satisfied. Never. And I said, we've got to make this official organization, FIRST Global. I need some people to start it up. I learned a long time ago, when you want to get something done, if it's a really, really big problem, you need a really small group of people that have some vision and some resources, some courage. And I called about a half a dozen people. You'll see who they are in a minute. And I said, we're going to form an international organization that'll do for FIRST what the International Olympic Committee tried to do 150 years or 124 years ago by making sports what will connect the world. Because the world needs to be connected by kids that understand technology, not by throwing things at each other. So we formed this FIRST Global, but I said, how am I going to get the message out to the rest of the world? And you saw very quickly a 1-minute piece of what FIRST is by the voice of God, Morgan Freeman. And last year, after 5 of these people said, I'll help you form FIRST Global, I said, I need another 2-minute video, a short video, that will show you people what FIRST is. But it's much harder to show why we're doing than what it is. So I went to New York to a guy that's an incredible producer. And after 2 hours of saying, it's not about the robots, it's not about the robots, it's not about the robots, it's about kids and the future and peace. And he said, Dean, I'll try to give you 2 minutes. But it's really hard to explain why it's so important. Because I've been to your events and they're all about robots and you're telling me it's not about robots. But let me see what I can do. I said, I'll get you Morgan Freeman. He said, Dean, to do what you need this time, I need a 7-year-old girl. And this is what he gave me that I could send to countries around the world last year to get them involved in the importance of FIRST Global.
This isn't a robot. It very well may have hydraulic arms, a drivetrain, and a circuit board, but this isn't a robot. This is a lesson in humility, hard work, and collaboration. This is a CrossFit workout for the muscle upstairs. This is an apple for the next generation of Newtons. It's a lot of things. But this isn't a robot. This is a roadmap that leads straight to engineering. This is a rock to shatter 1,000 glass ceilings. A rope to pull a generation up and out of poverty. A sledgehammer to break down cultural barriers. And a universal language spoken in every nation on earth. And because of that, this is a compass that can help point the way to peace. But please, don't think this is just a robot. This is Glastonbury for technology. This is mission control for the next moonshot. This is the Rosetta Stone to help translate the future. This is the sport that will help us win tomorrow. This is the software to program ourselves to cure cancer, build a clean engine, or step foot on Mars. But this isn't a robot. It's a machine to build the people who will change the world.
So now, Now I'm in trouble, because he said the time is up. But I have one video that I think you'll all appreciate, and I can't get in too much trouble when you see who's in this video. But we sent that around, and I thought I'd get 40 or 50 countries to do a demonstration of First Global, one team per country, not like the other First, where we had thousands of teams in the US. And I was hoping to get one team from each of 40 or 50 countries to Washington, D.C., to Constitution Hall last August, 3 months ago. But after we made this happen and we started talking to our first community around the world, I didn't get 40 or 50. I got 157 different countries to send their team to Washington. And I'm going to show you very quickly some pictures of it. I was going to show you this video about it, but I won't because I don't have time to go through this one. But I'm going to show you some pictures of the demonstration program. I cut that short. This is Constitution Hall. The video would have showed that. This is what it looked like in Constitution Hall as 157 countries, kids, celebrated and worked together and proved that Shimon Peres was right. But the next picture I show you, by the way, that goes from Afghanistan to Zimbabwe, 157. While they were out there having their final rounds in this incredibly uplifting event, I had a few people out on the deck at Constitution Hall, and you might notice in there Ricardo Salinas, as well as Jack and Mike Bezos, and the whole, that's my initial board. I didn't give them hot coffee, I should have, but they were still in a good mood. And I said, look, this works so well, we got to keep this momentum going. This was a demonstration in this little hall. We need to make 2018 the launch of First Global around the world. We need to pick a country that has enough familiarity with First that they can host it. That would be you. Or Israel, or Canada, or Japan. But we need to make it work. Who do I know that might have that vision and resources and courage and an arena and a production company? And there sitting was Ricardo Salinas. No matter what I ask him for, he delivers. So he said, Dean. So we were having closing ceremonies a few minutes after this, and I said, Ricardo, here's a warning. Just before I officially close the 2017 demonstration, I'm going to hand you a microphone. Here it is. But how do you follow the First Global Challenge? You find somebody that's been inspired by all of you, and you say, you can do this. Are you willing to step up? I'm going to introduce you to the guy that is willing to step up, and he's got a few words for you. One of our founding members, Ricardo Salinas. Please come on up here.
Dean is such a character. It's just such an honor to be able to work with a person like Dean. And I'm very pleased to announce to all of you, on behalf of the Board of Governors of First Global, we have made the decision to select as hosts for the 2018 Summer Championship, Mexico City, Summer 2018. Thank you. Viva Mexico.
So, all I can tell you is, in August of next summer, the world, and I hope at least 180 countries will have a team here, and we are going to prove to the world, while some people think they can build walls, some people don't have vision and courage, we're going to show the world that scientists and engineers and innovators know how to build bridges that will connect the next generation to fix the world. Thank you. Thank you.
Un aplauso para...
Thank you. Thank you.
All the compliments.
Thank you. Thank you.
Para los que no lo sepan, aunado a todo lo anterior, ¿alguien sabe lo que es el Segway? Este aparatito, el Segway. ¿Alguien sabe? Él es uno de los cerebros más grandiosos de la humanidad. Inventó el Segway. Inventó esta silla de ruedas para dignificar a la gente incapacitada y que se pueda parar. Inventó uno de los purificadores de agua más importantes para llevar el agua a regiones del mundo donde no hay. Esta es una mente brillante. Un aplauso.